Welcome to Witham Sounding Board, a podcast sharing powerful business tips, insights, and trends for those seeking to become a rock star in their industry.
Good day, and welcome to Witham's Lodging Insights and Innovations podcast. My name is Lena Combs. I'm a partner here at Witham and practice leader of the firm's hospitality services team. Today I have with me Martin Harsky, who's a principal with Witham's National Tax Services Group and the group leader of the cost segregation team. Today we'll be talking about cost segregation studies for the hospitality and lodging industry. Thank you, Martin, for joining us today and talking about this timely topic and providing your insights to our listeners.
Thank you, Lena, for having me, and look forward to talking to everybody and informing them about what is cost segregation.
Great. Well, then we'll start right there. What is a cost segregation study?
Cost segregation is a strategic tax savings tool that allows companies or individuals who have constructed, purchased, expanded, or remodeled pretty much any type of commercial property, even residential property that they own, to basically it's accelerating their depreciation deductions, which ultimately is going to increase their cash flow and ultimately, again, from saving tax dollars.
Great. Sounds like a great tool. So can you tell our listeners a little bit, and me, how is a cost segregation study performed and what kind of credentials do the professionals who perform these services have, so our listeners know what to look for?
Let's just pick, for example, a purchase property. Someone buys a hotel today, doesn't matter what type of brand. So generally what we do, if a client calls us or one of the partners here at Witham here calls me up or emails me and says, "Hey, Martin, I've got a client who is just getting ready to buy a building, a hotel." So there are general questions we ask of the partner and or the client, such as what type of property is it? How many rooms? What type of amenities does it have? Was it purchased through a 1031 exchange? Or how did they actually buy it? When did they buy it? And so on. So then we ask for certain information, a copy of the real estate appraisal, copy of the closing statement. Did they actually renovate the property after their purchase, or are they actually planning on renovating the property? So these are some of the first things that we ask up front. Doesn't cost anything for us to look at that. That's part of our due diligence right up front to provide the client with projected benefits. That's one of the biggest things that we do, is getting this information. Then I calculate the projected benefits based upon my 44 years of experience of doing this and looking at a hotel, what type it is. It could be, for example, a Motel 6 versus a very high-end resort. So from a lower type of hotel, you're going to find less money in terms of what we can reclassify to a very high-end property. So those are the first things we do up front. Then we send out the engagement letter. The next step is to actually visit the property. That's part of the requirements from the IRS and the Cost Segregation Audit Technique Guide. They want you to certify that you actually visited the property. They also want to know who you talked to, who showed you around the property, who you interviewed, and so on as part of the study. We take photographs of the entire property, outside of the property, inside the guest rooms, all the various areas of the property. We take photographs and take notes. So that's the next step. Now, generally we ask for blueprints, a complete set of blueprints. So our engineering team will then analyze the plans and estimate all the various costs for that and breaking it out into the various tax lives. It could be a 5-year life, 7-year life, 15-year life versus 39 years. So again, going back to the original question, that's the premise of it. So these 4 buckets that we just talked about is the identification of the various assets, segregating them out of the building life, which is 39 years, and moving it down to the short tax lives, which allows us to accelerate the depreciation deduction for the client.
Great.
The type of credentials. generally anybody who has been in the industry that has construction background, appraisal background, architect, engineers, these type of backgrounds can do a actual cost segregation study. There is no physical requirement from the IRS, and inside the audit technique guide, they do talk about this, their credentials. So again, if someone has construction background, if someone has engineering background, appraisal background that are very familiar with real estate, they can do studies.
Great. And so we talked a little bit about the tax benefits of the study. So really that's so that an owner can accelerate the tax deductions related to depreciation.
Correct.
And as bonus depreciation is reducing, that might be a little bit less depending on any tax law changes going forward, but certainly a favorable outcome to get those deductions sooner.
Right.
So when is the ideal time to have a cost segregation study performed? Or we talked about when someone buys or constructs a new building. Clearly, that would probably be the most ideal time. But how long do you have to do that? How long would you have to have the study done?
Well, again, you can go backwards 20, 25 years pretty much on a property. It's called a look back study, and you can go backwards. You don't have to amend a tax return. That's the beauty of this. So you have two sides of this of cost segregation. Something that was placed in service in the current tax year and something that maybe has been placed in service 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 15, 20 years. Now, the look back studies, again, you're not filing an amended return. What the IRS is allowing you to do, it's called a form. You're basically doing a 481 adjustment, filing a form 3115, which allows you to recapture, in essence, all the understated depreciation from the prior tax years and bring it forward to your current tax return. So the beauty of it is, let's say someone buys a $10 million hotel, not including any of the furniture, fixtures, or equipment, or land, or any other of the intangibles. And they've got the entire $10 million sitting on a 39-year tax life. So they're basically getting 2.5% depreciation over 40 years. So you can go back and relook at this by, again, like we talked about previously, getting the real estate appraisal, the plans, visiting the property. And generally, we can find anywhere from 15 to 35% of that $10 million we can reclassify into a 5-year life, 7-year life, and a 15-year tax life. So there's the benefits right there. So again, if we're just for example purposes, and I'm just going to pick a number, 30% of that number of the 10 million has been sitting on your books at 39 years. There's $3 million in essence we can bring forward to the current tax year, which is going to help to reduce their taxable income.
Great. So any time is a good time.
Well, you're absolutely right. So if we know someone's getting ready to construct a property, we want to try to get involved with the project when they're getting ready they're building the property so that we can ask the client and the contractor to provide us certain information up front.
Great. So tell me, what is qualified improvement property and how does that relate to cost segregation?
Okay. So again, on a qualified improvement property, you have to kind of take a step backwards. Prior to 2017, there were 3 buckets. It was called qualified leasehold improvement, qualified retail improvement, and qualified restaurant improvements. And then in 2017, the Tax Act changed and combined all of these various qualified properties into one catch-all bucket now called qualified improvement property. So this QIP is really anything on the inside of the building. It can't be, in other words, for example, if you are replacing the rooftop units, the air conditioning units, none of those would qualify because they're on the outside of the building shell. So that's the one issue. The second part of that is it cannot be a structural component of the building. So in other words, if you had a roof line that was sagging and you had to put in a new foundation and structural support to support the roof, well, that doesn't qualify. Or if you're expanding your hotel or something, adding on another wing, that would not qualify. So again, if you're going into your hotel and pulling out all the bathroom fixtures, pulling tubs out and replacing them with showers, and all the bathroom fixtures and the hard tile inside the guest rooms, and you're replacing it with new fixtures, new painting, new tile, that would qualify as QIP, which is a 15-year tax life, not a 39-year tax life. So that's the other beauty of that. And this kind of goes into one of our next, comments about the bonus depreciation. Anything that has a 20-year tax life or less does qualify for bonus depreciation. Currently, bonus depreciation has been anywhere from 30%, 50%, 100%. It was 0% for a while. Now it went back in 2017. It was 100%. So they went from the end of 2017 through 2022. They had 100% bonus depreciation. In 2023, it was 80%. Now in 2024, it's dropping down to 60%. So it's going to be phased out unless Congress, which recently did pass the bill to extend 100% bonus depreciation, but currently it's kind of bogged down in the Senate. So we don't know where this is going to be going.
We'll definitely have to keep an eye on that.
Exactly.
So are there additional services sort of related to cost segregation that would be beneficial for lodging companies?
There definitely would. So again, if you're going to back and retrofit your hotel, there is something else called Section 179D. It's an energy efficiency deduction study, wherein you go in and analyze all the mechanical equipment, like your PTAC units inside of a hotel, if they're energy efficient. If you went in and did other things with the lighting, you went to LED lighting. And then the other part of that is it's called the building envelope, which would be the roofing material, the windows, and the insulation. So there's three parts of this legs that you can potentially get up to $2.50 a square foot of the entire hotel as a deduction against the cost of those components.
Great. That sounds really, really beneficial. I know we're here to talk about hotels and lodging companies, but what other types of buildings or industries are cost segregation reports and 179D studies used for?
It's pretty much across the board. Apartment complexes, retail centers, car dealerships, hotels, and of course, hotels, motels, golf courses. There's pretty much anything that is rental property you can get. Again, if you have duplexes, if you have like I said, the apartment complex. So it's across the board that you can get these savings and do these studies on.
Great. So lots of people are eligible.
Right.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate your wisdom today and your insights talking about cost segregation studies and some of the ancillary services around there to provide tax benefits to hotel and lodging companies. That was really insightful. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Lena, for having me.
If you have any questions about today's podcast, please reach out to us at www.witham.com/hospitality.